something interesting, which is kind of mess with me. It's really been messing with me. And it's this whole concept of snitching and what snitching is and what snitching ain't. And I've been pushed on both sides. I just had one of my longtime followers accuse me of wanting to allow people to rampage in our community because I said that running to the cops will not solve our problems. But I also said this no snitching code has been corrupted and degraded. I understand the no snitching concept goes all the way back to the plantation, where it was understood that when the authority, the people who have authority over you, when the establishment is corrupt, then your obligation as a citizen, as a subordinate, as a subject to unjust power, relieves you of the obligation that unjust power holds over you. So, and this ain't just black people. This didn't even start. White folks said this. If you go back to Jean-Jacques Rousseau and these other European philosophers of they call the political science canon, they have this thing called the social contract. And the social contract consisted of the obligation of the state, the obligation of the ministers, the obligations of the oligarchs, the obligations of the monarchs, the obligations of the clergy and the leadership of the religious and other institutions of power, the obligations that they had to the citizens. And if the citizens did not receive or did not see that their leaders, their oppressors, their overlords did not honor the social contract, then the citizens had a right to rebel, to overthrow, even in the Constitution. Even pedophile, rapist, murderous, genocidal founding fathers of America understood and embraced the concept that, and this has come around recently, that from time to time, the tree of liberty must be watered with the blood of tyrants. Meaning that the violent resistance, violent overthrow, the violent ousting of oppressive institutions are justified in order to preserve the liberty of the people. So when we understand those concepts, and when we understand that Black people have never had just governance, have never had our full citizenship, our full human rights acknowledged or protected by the state, by local, regional, national, federal government, our rebellion is justified. Our resentment is justified. Our uprisings and burning of cities is fully justified, not just by Black rage, not just by Black radical thought, but they embedded in their own political philosophies, in their own ideologies that they taught to me in their universities. I had to read these motherfuckers. I had to go read all these old dusty white men, and just, you got to know how annoying it is to read about the French Revolution, liberté, fraternité, to read about all these white men talking about freedom, read about Thomas Jefferson, to read Woodrow Wilson, the consummate statesmen, these bloodthirsty monsters in petticoats. These bloodthirsty monsters speaking so articulately about freedom and liberty, liberation, and I'm like, goddamn, they know they doing it wrong. They know it. So anyway, when I talk about the state, I had a Black person or a person who is leftist come to me and say, well, bro Diallo, you want to just have people in the streets that are harming other people, because I said, and I stand by, there are no solutions. And not even talking about the wider struggle, but there are no solutions embedded within the policing agencies, the government, state controlled policing agencies for Black people, which that person interpreted it as me saying that criminals should be allowed to act with impunity within the Black community, which is not what I said. I just said I don't think the criminals should be allowed to act with impunity within the community, but the policing agencies, sheriffs, police, state, regional, like the KBI, Kansas Bureau of Investigation, Illinois Bureau, or the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the various policing and investigation agencies, the law enforcement infrastructure, the justice system has no solutions for us. And they're not interested in solving the problems. I'll say this is one of my mantras. Capitalism has no interest in solving problems. They only seek to profit from problems. And we just have Black people. If policing led to a reduction in the harm imposed on our communities, the Black communities would be the safest communities in all of the United States, because no other communities receive the amount of policing, the amount of surveillance, the amount of state punishments, imposed sentences. If policing translated into safety, then our communities would be the safest. So we're getting it from both sides. We're getting all the liabilities of policing and none of the stated or projected benefits of policing. And me calling that out, someone said that I was advocating for Black people just being murdered without consequence. But then I've had other people tell me that I support snitching because I didn't understand the snitching. I understand it, but I was very resentful that these race traders had co-opted the no snitching code, because as I told you, the social contract for African people has never been honored. Therefore, our obligation to the state does not exist. So it's always been a cat and mouse relationship between African people and the state. Black people, in order to survive, in order to sustain ourselves, in order to navigate, in order to live dignified lives, by and large, have to circumvent the state, subvert the state, challenge the state, undermine the state, ignore the state. If Black people in this country had remained lawful, if Black people had conducted ourselves as lawful citizens by the majority in the United States, we would not only still be in chattel slavery, or let's pretend like the Emancipation Project, we would definitely still be within Jim Crow, because we had to break the law to escape slavery. We had to break the law to escape Jim Crow. We had to take the law into our own hands to fight off white vigilantes. We often had to take on a less grand scale, on a person-to-person scale. Many times, our ancestors and our brothers have to break the law in order to feed ourselves, house ourselves. And as Mos Def said, when we start keeping pace, they change up the tempo. So even lawful Black people have had their progress, their lawful progress, impeded or reversed based on the signing of a piece of paper. As Jared Ball researched, Black Wall Street was not destroyed by illegal atrocities committed by white citizens. Black Wall Street was ultimately destroyed by lawful policies.